All
Okay,
right.
well, hey, it's
All right.
time. So, Trevor, why don't you get things going?
Hey, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us once again. We've got a really great webinar today. We have obviously a very, very special guest, a friend of ours, a friend of the family, a friend of the company. Amy Myers is here, and she's going to give her recipe for success for virtual events. I want to put particular focus on the chat function below. This is a very interactive Q&A. We have chats. And then also a separate Q&A function button as well. So we'll be monitoring that. We want interaction from everyone attending with questions. These are all very pertinent matters right now. So with regard to virtual fundraising and what you're planning. We are gonna keep it brief as possible. Of course, the value is gonna be super high, but we don't want to keep you for hours and hours. Before I introduce Amy, who really needs no introduction, but she's gonna get one anyway. Jason's going to pop up a poll with regard to when your next event is going to take place. So we kind of want to just get some interaction there on the poll, just to get an idea of what you're planning and the time frame and what have you. And today, we're not going to talk too much about software, and we're not going to talk too much about videos and AV teams and things of that nature and all the nuance behind it. What we're going to talk about is focusing on raising money at your next virtual event. We have Amy Myers, the National Director of Community Events at the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And she, if there was an expert in virtual fundraising, even though we've only been doing it for about a year, I would choose Amy as an expert. And so she put together 5 events in 2020 for MDA that raised over $3 million. And I remember talking to her about it in spring of 2020, and I was completely flabbergasted with how much she put together. So like I said, she is an expert in this space. And like I said, she's a friend of HGA. And please give a round of applause and a warm welcome to Amy Myers, please. Thank you so much. I hear all the applause right now. Thanks for joining us, Amy.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And so I'm going to start just by asking you just to give us a brief look back in 2020. What were you challenges you were facing and all that stuff. And then just tell us about how you developed your recipe for success for virtual fundraising events and how we can share this with all the folks that are watching.
Sure. So I think everybody in the industry experienced, we're in a pandemic. What do? We still have to raise this money. And so I'm going to be honest, 2021 for us from the beginning of the year, or from COVID, let's just say from COVID to the end of the year, changed a lot and looked different as things changed. Our first event that was virtual was more of, we had about 5 events that were ready to go live in person and had to be canceled. So we had a significant amount of income that was there and we needed to keep it. We were in a pandemic. And so the first event looked a little different. It was a quickly pivot. How do we retain that money that we had already gotten for events that were now not taking place? How do we convert people that had committed but not yet paid? How do we get them to still pay because now there's no event? And then at the same time, bring in new money. So the first event, we just quickly pivoted. We really, really depended on our committees. I think it was really important. We quickly put together kind of a toolkit, and a lot of it was resources for our committees and our volunteers. It was important to give them the right language to have those conversations with these sponsors, and really making sure that the virtual events, and this was the same throughout the year, that we didn't look at it as much as a fundraiser. Even though we wanted to raise lots of money, we really looked at them as the celebration, and we just focused on selling our mission, selling our resource center. For us, it was, we were going to have a virtual camp. So it was really selling what MDA had to offer, and the virtual event was the celebration and bringing everybody together. From the event that we did in May to the last event of the year we did in November, we made a lot of changes. We had to keep changing what the event looked like and what the fundraising looked like, because as the country opened up a little bit more in places, you didn't have that captive audience on Friday night. Whereas in May, everybody was at home. They really didn't have anything else to do. As things started opening, restaurants and stuff, you had to find a way to keep those people engaged and get them to get on your event. And you also, as we moved through the year, we had virtual fatigue. Everybody was working from home. Everybody was doing Zoom calls all day. The last thing you wanted to do was watch a virtual event. And so that's where, moving forward, we really learned, the importance of, it needs to be a short program. It needs to be very mission driven. And honestly, your money needs to be raised before the event, which goes back to the event as a celebration. The bulk of your money needs to be raised ahead of time. So that's the short version.
Amy, talking about keeping focus, what the thing was, when we did this, we said we want to focus on raising the money, because everybody gets real caught up in in the cameras and the lights, and do we do it on a stage? Do we do it completely virtual? And I'm just speaking about virtual events, and we can maybe talk about hybrid a little bit, but really just on a virtual event, what we've seen with different clients and things going on in this space is that they seem to get caught up, trying to have their normal gala, but just virtualize it. And what would you say to somebody who's really struggling on which way to go and where their time and effort needs to be focused? I mean, because you're saying beforehand, so give us some examples of that.
Yeah. So, what I experienced was, yes, you do treat it like a gala leading up to the virtual event, in the sense that you still need to be having those calls with your committees. You still need to use your committee members to go out and secure the sponsorships. You need to be planning for the event financially like you would for an in-person. However, when it comes to the night of the event, one, you don't need to spend $100,000 on an AV company and a production company. We found our production AV expenses and stuff were about 2% of our gross. So we could actually put on these galas and just focus all of our time on the pre-raise with our, it's really important to have the right conversations with these big donors and sponsors. And I'll talk a little bit later about, I do have some slides, and I'll talk a little bit more about really what that breakdown looks like. And I don't know, maybe if Jason, you want to put that slide up?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me,
and talk
I'm
through
gonna
it.
I'm gonna pop Trevor off for a second, and there you go.
All right. So just to these, to me, as what we found were the most important aspects of a virtual event. Obviously, you want to use auction software. And what I have found with our events is I like to use auction software that is where you do your bidding, your revenue enhancers, if you're having a raffle, golden ticket, whatever that may be, your silent auction. But I like a different stream for the event, the virtual event. So, whether it's a YouTube live event or Facebook Live or Instagram, because that allows people to, now that we are a little bit more opened up, and this is one of the things as we went through the year, we found a great way to really enhance your event financially is to really encourage your committee members and big spenders to have watch parties. And that kind of keeps that momentum of everybody spending money and getting together and having a drink or whatever. So it still has that gala feel. And so that way they can watch it together on, put it up on the TV, and everybody can still be on their phone bidding. So that was just, that was a personal preference that we found as we, went through the year. Obviously, you want a professional auctioneer or MC. And it is really important. And I know we aren't going to talk logistics and stuff, but it is important that you have one that is comfortable on TV, because a person that is good on stage may not be the same as doing a virtual event. Obviously, just like a regular in-person event, you've got to have that gala, committee chair. You've got to have that committee. Your steering committee is the driving force for your income. Obviously, you have to sell sponsorships. You have to have a mission drive. Those are like two musts. Silent auction, live auction, I think that depends on where you are in your situation. They're a great way to bring in extra income. But we all know with things closed and trying to get auction items, donated can be difficult. And that's where, one of the industry trends right now is people are turning to consignment, because many of us in the industry have furloughed staff, and we just don't have the manpower to be out getting auction items. Now, if you have a great volunteer committee that can do it, that's awesome. But, think about using consignment, because it is a nice boost to your income. And I see the question that came up about what is the mission drive. So, that's probably an MDA term. Some people call it a mission drive. Some people call it give from the heart. Some people call it fund a need. And that is basically the point in your event, either virtual or live, where you have that compelling story from, somebody that you serve, somebody that's been, a client of yours, whatever it is, then that you have that compelling story. And then your auctioneer or MC really takes over and asks people to give. And typically you have preset levels, depending on your room and, your guests. It might be, starting at a $10,000 level. It might be less than that. But a mission drive to me is probably the most important element of a virtual event. Because that gives you the opportunity to put your story out there.
Hey, Amy, when you're talking about mission drive, so really that's like the live ask or fund a need is really what you're talking about. So one of the things that we had, you and I had talked about previous to this, getting ready for this, was about having either the money committed, either checks in hand or committed. Can you talk about that for just a little bit? Because, you're talking about trying to get, we use the terms, you said 70% is what y'all's goal is to have 70% of your money either raised in hand or committed for the night of. Is that correct? It is.
So our kind of our metrics that we use is we want 70% of our gross, whatever our gross goal is, we want 70% in sponsorship money confirmed, preferably in the bank, but at least committed 70% of your gross. And then in addition to that, typically night of, we try to raise the other 30%. And there is a slide, I don't know if you want to show that or not, with a breakdown. Absolutely. But of that 30%, right there it is. Yep. So of that 30% of your gross goal, that's your night of income. And that is broken down by the live ask, the 20% mission drive, 10% silent and live auction. And then we all love to have revenue enhancers. They don't tend to bring a ton of money in, but they're fun. They keep people engaged. And we always look at those as like icing on the cake that can really use those to just cover your expenses. Now you'll see where it says 20% mission drive. What we found working through, as Trevor mentioned, we had 5 events. And what we found is that going into the event, in addition to the 70% of the—
Hey, just a second, Amy, real quick,
Sure.
Just real quick. Somebody is, if you guys can't see the slide, look at the top right where it says view, and and click on gallery. And that should help you see the slides as well. Let me know if that helps you. So like I said, it's the upper right-hand side where it says view this as speaker and gallery. If you just change that to gallery, it should let you see everybody. Great. Okay, cool. Okay, go ahead, Amy.
So 20% of your gross income is should be from your mission drive. And that is, I mean, I like to call it free money. We're not giving them anything for their money. It's just that feel good because they are supporting the organization. What we found is that the 20% that you're going to get in your mission drive, you need to pre-commit 80% of that. What this looks like is, for us, it was, pulling reports from the last event we did and seeing who are our big donors and having those conversations, having a plan with what those conversations will look like. Is it a committee member that brought in a $10,000 mission sponsor? And if so, having a conversation with your committee member and coming up with a plan to how to approach this donor and just ask them, can we get a commitment from you that you're going to do that $10,000 again this year? Or you can have that conversation and say, hey, you gave $10,000 last year. Would you be willing to kick off our mission drive and give $15,000 this year? Because we want to upsell. But what we found is during the actual virtual event, because of Zoom fatigue and virtual fatigue and stuff, it's hard to keep people engaged. It's also hard to get them to give during the event. It's very different than you can have the best auctioneer in the world, but when they're on a stage and they can play the crowd against each other, and you can feel the good vibe, is very different than trying to do it through a screen and being able to play off of the room energy. So for your mission drive to be successful, you really need to focus on having 80% of that income secured. And basically that is just going back to your previous event, looking and having those conversations with those donors that have given. And most of you probably know your room for an event and know that, Joe Smith gives $5,000 to the mission drive every year, whether he's at the event or not. Those are the people you just have the conversations with and just get that pre-commitment. And if I encourage you, if you are getting a pre-commitment and if they pay in advance, to not put that into your software, have somebody entering it during the mission appeal so that you can see it go from 0 to 100,000. You can see that, because that will help give you that energy that you can't feel because you're in the room. It's that excitement of watching your barometer go up versus, if you have $80,000 pre-committed and you already have it in the system, and then only another 10 or 12,000 is given during your event, that's all you're seeing. So we always enter ours in during that piece of it, so we can see it go from 0 to 100,000 or whatever.
Hey, Amy, on that same deal, and just so everybody knows, if you guys have some questions, please, we'll even bring you on here. That way you can ask your question and get it right from Amy, as opposed to just typing it up there. If you want to just do that, we'd love to have you come on. But my question is, or this is a discussion that we hear a lot. Well, we've got people that they bought our platinum tables at 10,000, and we had this group of people that would buy our gold tables at 5,000. This group of people were buying them at 2,500, and this group bought it 1,000. Stuff like that. What can we do now, as opposed to since we're not having a live event, we're not going to do it. How can we? Before we would say, well, you're going to be at the front of the deal, you're going to get special champagne, and you're going to, we would give them something in exchange for that. And this is not that case. I personally don't know that that's an issue. I think people that are going to give regardless. But talk about that a little bit, about how, are the folks that are here attending, watching this, and they're thinking about this. How do I go and, ask Mr. Smith, who's always been that platinum donor, but now how do I approach that?
So I think that goes back to, and it's new for a lot of us in the nonprofit world, is the conversation looks different, and it goes back to you're selling a mission, not necessarily the benefits. But at the same time, we know that people, they want to know what they're getting for their money. And so with the virtual event, we still put together a sponsorship package. The benefits just look very different. It's a 30-second commercial during your virtual event. We did a pre-show where everybody, lots of videos, and, we still could do quarter page ad, half page ads. You can do social media. So you just have to get creative with that. And what you're giving, you're still able to give them benefits. And, one of the selling points is, if you have an event, if you're in Houston and you have an event every year in Houston, you have this core group of people that attend every year. Well, this is your opportunity to really, your sponsors can get exposure nationwide, because this gives your committee and your guests and your families that you serve the opportunity to invite people from all across the country. So their exposure has just grown tremendously. So it just looks different, and it's just a different conversation. And like I said, it really goes back to selling. I'm with you. I mean, if people are going to give, they're going to give, but there's always those ones that I think we get caught up on thinking people want to know what they're going to get, and that's not always the case. So just having that right conversation and taking it back to the mission.
Oh, that's awesome. Anybody, hey, if you just want to raise your hand, if somebody has a question, you want to raise your hand for Amy, please just, you can see down at the bottom, says raise hand, and I'll switch you over and bring you on, and you can just, we'd love to have you come on and do that. But as we move on, I'm going to pull Amy's slides back up, and
I want to ask a couple of questions, just like house cleaning questions, just to address them so they don't go stale. Can you quickly, Amy, give an example of a revenue enhancer at one of your events?
Sure.
Okay.
So a revenue enhancer basically is just a fun way to keep people interactive. And they're typically a lower cost game. So it could be essentially golden ticket. A lot of people have heard of the golden ticket. So on your software, there's a spot where people can go and they can buy a golden ticket for $100, and they have a chance, there's only 100 of them sold, and they have the chance to win a vacation. And then during the event, you just really make it exciting, and you draw that winner during the event. There are ways to do, fixed price items, just like you would with a gala, like a jewelry pull, and everybody just picks a number, and then they win a prize and you mail it to them. You can do a wine pull the same way. You can do pretty much anything that you do in person as a revenue enhancer. There are ways to do it virtually. Awesome. And another revenue enhancer that I really like is we just use gift cards, and we'll have our MC say, all right, we're going to be giving away, Target gift cards throughout the show. The way that you can win is chat us in. We want to hear from you. Where are you from? And it gets a really good dialogue going and keeps people engaged, because then they're paying attention to the show, but they're also watching the questions and watching where people are from. And it keeps them from honestly getting up and walking away from your event, and then randomly just giving away these gift cards by, picking somebody that from the chat. So that's an easy one. And it, like I said, you've got to find ways to keep people engaged.
Yep. Super.
Speaking of revenue enhancers, hey, everybody that if you just popped on, make sure you stay to the end, because we'll be done and absolutely before 1 o'clock. But we're going to give away a trip, so that way you can use that in your next event. So please hold on and don't go anywhere.
And that's a great tip, Jason, because I always encourage you to end your virtual event with some type of contest revenue enhancer, so that people stay the entire time, because they want to find out if they're going to win.
Perfect.
That's good.
Good feedback. Sorry for derailing you a little bit there, guys. I just wanted to, we said a couple
No, I think it's a great question.
Well, and I see a question too. Was the event longer than an hour? No.
Yeah, you never do that.
And this is not just from my experience. This is from many conversations, many webinars I've been on. 30 to 40 minutes. You really, really want to keep it short. You want to keep people engaged, and you want your fundraising first. It's great to have a video from your committee chair and whoever else, but you really need to kick off your, welcome everybody to your event and jump right in. Have your fund and need or mission speaker do theirs, go right into that mission drive, and then your silent or live auction. Fundraising first. Can't say it enough.
Smart. Absolutely.
Okay. I got your slides back up here, Amy. I thought this was kind of just made it pertinent just to go right back to your 5 rules of securing sponsorships.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, like we said, this is just kind of the 5 rules to securing sponsorships. And obviously doing your homework before you make the ask. I mean, anytime, in my opinion, anytime you're going to ask somebody for a large chunk of money, you need to do your due diligence and, you know, do your homework, learn about the company, be prepared, you know, to go in and make the ask. But, you know, the 5 rules, sponsorship is a numbers game. We all know that. And always when you go back to a sponsor that has been a sponsor in the past, you always try and upsell them. That should be your goal, whether it's in person or virtual. Every year you should, that sponsor that's $1,000 next year should be $3,500. The year after that, it should be $5,000. That should always be the goal. Understand value before talking price. And that's where, here again, doing your homework and knowing, like, what does your sponsor want to get out of it? You know, find out what are they looking for? Are they looking for a lot of exposure? Are they just looking for a good feel? And being able to have that conversation with them, so that when you're talking about the price of the sponsorship, you're on the same page with them. And then here again, you know, what drives your potential sponsors? Do they have a connection to your mission? If so, then maybe that's what the conversation looks like. Do they participate in your event because somebody on your committee just has a really good connection and they don't necessarily even, you know, care as much about your mission? So just make sure that you know what drives your sponsor. And then, you know, understanding the message. I mean, that's just, you know, common sense, making sure that we know what that message is that we want to get to them. And you took down the 5th one and I don't remember it.
Oh, sorry. Don't forget the no's.
Don't forget about those no's. That's a big one. So, you know, especially with these virtual events, just because somebody said no in the past, go back, keep asking. You know, people say, what is it they say? They say no, like sometimes it's up to 10 times before they actually say yes. You know, so just make sure, keep track of those no's and always keep them on the back burner. I like the no's to be kind of my relationship people. Those are the ones, all right, they said no to me, but I'm going to work on that relationship so that next year when I go back to them, they say yes.
You know, we had a question, and I already know, but I'm going to let you answer it. So Mary asked us, are you considering a hybrid event this year? And if so, what are your plans to engage both audiences?
We are. So we are doing a little bit. We are doing a mix this year. We are doing a big virtual event. We are doing as big as it can be in-person event, and we are doing a hybrid event. And really what it's going to look like is we have a national relationship with Harley Davidson. And so they do these, what they call black and blue balls across the country. The event will be at the dealership. And then we will have a large screen in their parking lot because they have a large parking lot. And so people that are not comfortable with being in a large room of people can come to somewhat still be part of it and be in the parking lot. And we're going to live stream it to that screen. And also, obviously, if you want to watch it from home, you can still watch it from home. And really, you know, we talk about virtual, but in hybrid, in a sense, I feel like we've really always been hybrid, because when you think of your events, if you're using any type of software, you're doing so much through your phone with your bidding and the auction, and there's such a big piece of it. So we've essentially, you know, people didn't necessarily always attend our events, but they were at home bidding and participating in, you know, the revenue enhancers and stuff that they could buy online. So it's not completely a new concept, but you just would do it the same way. You're just going to have live streaming the actual event, you know, your person up on stage, and It's very easy to do everything through your software and through your phone, so that people can be bidding it from at home. They can be bidding from in the parking lot. They can be bidding from the audience. And the best part about the hybrid is you do have a room full of people that helps gets that energy going, that I think will carry over to the people that are watching virtually.
One of the things that I would like to bring out, we get set up, and we've had this experience, is that everybody wants to go and make sure that they've got something for big screens or smart TVs and all this stuff. And having those links available is really important. But don't forget, we did a study on our software. 80% did watch the entire event over this right here, over their cell phone. 80%, that's what they did it on. So, think about that. If you can have an integrated system, I'm not just plugging our stuff, but just with a system where it's got it integrated so they can see it, bid, make those donations, and watch it all the time. If they've got to switch back and forth between apps, it makes it a little bit clunky and slows things down. So just wanted to let you know about that.
We've got a question. We've got a question from Jason Nealand. We've got a few questions, and I'm kind of doing them in reverse order of receipts, of course. But Jason had a question about recommendations on having the virtual played live along with the live in person, or do you recommend, I think I know the answer, having it edited and played at a later date? Benefits and detractions of one or the other. Question from Jason Nealand.
I mean, I think it's going to be a learning experience for all of us, but my gut tells me that you want to do it live. There's just a lot to be said feeding off of, like I said, the energy in a room. Typically, the important part of your event is your program. And that's the part that you would really live stream. And typically your guests are quiet at that part. It's a program. So I really feel like you need to do it live. It just will lose its effectiveness, recording it and playing it later. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't record it so that it is available later, because then you can share it with sponsors so they can see where their logos were placed and whatnot. But I really lean towards doing it all live.
One thing I'd like to just point out, the hybrid events that we've worked on and done, and we've done quite a few of them. It's exceptionally, you'd be surprised how many bids, donations and things come live virtually from people that for whatever reason, either, just because either they don't want to be exposed, maybe they've got a health issue, they've decided to ride it out at home and watch and engage that way, still wind up buying. I mean, I saw a guy, buy a piece of art for $10,000 and he wasn't even in the country, but he was able to attend, make that purchase and do it when we had a whole room, 150 people, or I think it's 110 actually, 110 people in the room. So, definitely having that live, that competition, because the technology is there. The technology works. Literally, your auctioneer's up there selling and somebody's clicking bidding, and he can just, he or she will just keep moving the bids up. And so the technology is there to do it. So I would definitely recommend having it all live. And there's a question about, and I think this is a great point. Do you sell only sponsorships or do you sell individual tickets? And I've seen people just really stress over this, but I'd love to get your input on this, Amy.
So I think that depends on your organization. And I say that for our events, we only sold sponsorships. We did not sell individual tickets because we didn't want to limit the people that would be watching the event. We wanted as many people as we could to watch it. So we felt like if we were to charge a ticket price, that would limit. However, it really does go back to your events and what your room typically would look like. If you have a big event that has a lot of money spenders in the room that would pay this ticket price, then go for it. I think you just have to really know your audience and know, we do very well at our events, but MDA is not a, American Cancer Society or one of these that everybody knows. And there tends to be bigger events with, more bidders, not eaters, as I like to say. And so I think you just have to look at your event and know your guest and go the route that you think will get you the best results.
Great.
And I've seen it both ways. I see virtual events that they are selling tickets and they do fine with it. But I think that also goes back to, what have you been selling for your events over the last years? Have you been selling the mission, or have you been selling benefits? You know, so you have to look at that too.
Super good. Super good.
Hey, we've got a poll up there real quick. If you guys want to just pop in, it's just really good. Looks like the majority are either doing a hybrid or virtual, and definitely majority is a virtual event. So we understand that, and that's why we wanted to do this, because we know there's so many, a lot of people kind of said, well, we're just going to cancel until next year. And then we're still wearing masks. We're still, a lot of states are still closed down or have a lot of limitations as far as how they can get together. So I think that makes a good point doing that. And so I'll just share this real quick so everybody can see it. And then we have another question. Kyra said, beyond the auction element, are there other platforms that are necessary to run the other activities for 100% virtual, i.e. live stage, photo booth, make a meal, etc.?
All the above. It can be done we did one event where we had our auctioneer was actually physically in the studio. We social distance, but was we had two events where they were physically in the studio from a stage. We had one event where we had our production company in Florida, and our MC was in New York and just did it from her computer. So, I mean, I think it can be done, based on, I personally, and a lot of this has to do with MDA and, internally what we had available to us. We used a production company just for the ease of it, because we just didn't have the people in-house that could do that, to put on. While you don't want to focus, your focus is on fundraising, you also want to have a good show. It needs to be, well produced, but you can do that fairly inexpensively. So I do encourage you to use a good, production company that will live stream it for you.
Cool.
Awesome. We have another question, Amy, about auction items from David Smith, popular items. I was holding on to this question for the last 20 minutes, and I want to make sure that before David pops off. So we're in the auction item space, but I want to get some feedback from you about what you've seen work. I know that you guys have sold some Caribbean all-inclusives and things like that, and we'll give our feedback if necessary, as far as data points that we're seeing and what's working.
So it's interesting. We found that what sold very well in a in-person event was very different virtual. Mm-hmm. The things that we saw sell were things like virtual events almost became, with an auction, almost, what was everybody doing? They're shopping online. So now they can shop online and through our auction and mm-hmm. help a good cause. Gift cards were crazy popular. $100 grocery store gift card would sell for $150. I mean, the return on investment was crazy. Jewelry, purses, name brand stuff like that was really, really popular, I guess, because women couldn't go out to, Belk and get their Coach purse or whatever. And then as we move through the year, towards the end of the year, Trevor, we started to really see people wanting vacations, whether it was in the United States because they're not comfortable with going to another country, or they don't want to fly, so they want to be driving distance. But we had our last auction that we had an all-inclusive as a buy it now and, a fixed price, and we sold the heck out of it. And I had people reach out after and say, hey, I wanted to get one of those for my daughter too. Can I still get one? So I think it changed throughout the year. Your typical thing, sports memorabilia, a little bit. I wouldn't go overboard on that. Gift cards, crazy popular. Purses, jewelry, things like that, did really, really well. But towards the end of the year, we really started golf packages. People they're ready to get out. They're itching. and they see the light at the end of the tunnel, I think that we're going to be able to travel soon. It may look a little different, but we are going to. And I see alcohol baskets. Those are super, super popular in person. The only thing that I would caution you with alcohol baskets is you really have to check into the shipping of alcohol in your state. So just to make sure you're abiding by the rules, that with any kind of alcohol, whether it's a revenue enhancer auction item, just make sure you're following your state laws.
I've got a real quick, just a tidbit for you guys. It just kind of goes right on with that. What we've learned is that the flat goods, like you said, like the frame stuff that's you hang on the wall and memorabilia and stuff, it's okay. But the things that do really well are name brand. One of the things, if you just go buy a generic, off the deal, it may look great and everything, but everybody has that inside deal. But if it says Gucci or Tiffany or something like that, everybody knows what that is. And so that's really good. And then the booze is another, I say booze, spirits, wine, things like that. It's still, and people still love that stuff, especially if it's something kind of neat and unusual and not something they can just pop down to the liquor store and find. Has done really well. So
we have another question, Amy. This is going to be really pertinent for MDA. Actually, we had an anonymous viewer ask, "What are your thoughts about adding a new event like a golf outing, for instance, to make up for lost income from virtual events, if you have any?"
I do. So I just had a call yesterday. We have a very large gala in Boston. It raises about $500,000. Great event. And the committee just said they did virtual last year. They said, we can't do virtual this year. We're people, we need to be together. We need to network. We'd rather just put it off until we can do something. So we went back to them and said, let's convert it to a golf outing. A golf outing is very similar to a gala. Or that's MDA runs them very similar. And I say that our elements are very similar. When we do a golf outing, we typically do some type of reception after, where you give the awards and stuff, but we have revenue enhancers. We have a live auction. We have a fund to need mission drive. We have a silent auction. So we bring all those same, and we've always done that. So that's not new for us. But I think if you have a group that is just really burned out with virtual, I think, golf is safe right now. We started doing golf outings. I think we had our first one last July or August, as things started to open up, and we've got 15 of them at least planned for this year. So I think, the virtual piece of golf or of a gala is, not what your committee or not like you're feeling it be successful, converting it to a golf outing and bringing those same elements in is a great idea.
I think that's awesome. That's good feedback. I hope that also, we had another question from Sandra Gonzalez about, do you recommend a silent live and a mission drive? And I think you answered that, whether it's obviously a virtual, a hybrid, or a golf outing, for instance. We know what we would do if it was all in person. So that answered that question. I did want to circle back. We did a great job with the popular auction items. Just want to let everyone know that, we sell a ton of wine. It's shipped directly from our partner in Italy. And that seems to be working really, really well. You don't have to mix and match bottles. Amy and Jason can both speak to the quality of the wine. but yeah, but that being said, also, we're booking a ton of travel. And so to that trend that Amy was talking about, where folks we're actually requesting vacations. And we saw, we came out of that trough, so to speak, last year, but we are booking folks to the Caribbean and Mexico and across the United States in droves right now. We handle all of our own booking in-house. So we're really, really, enamored with how much travel is actually being sold. But a nice cross-section of all those things, like you said, just touching the consumer goods that are name brands, spirits, wine, and then U.S. and also, beach or distant destinations that are dream destinations. That equation seems to be working really, really well. So,
and Trevor, I would say if you're not in a position to have a silent auction, because it looks very different. Normally for an event, we would get stuff from our local restaurants that are now, closed because of COVID or closed because they're out of business and things like that. Mm-hmm. If you can't get together a silent auction, if nothing else, just get one or two of the HGA vacations and just have them as like a buy it now fixed price. And that could serve in place of a silent auction if you're really, most of us know it's not a great use of a staff person's time to be out getting all these items for an auction that doesn't raise a significant amount of money, but it's a fun element. So adding something like just one or two vacations is, the perfect solution to bring in probably more money than a silent auction.
Awesome feedback, and I appreciate that. Thanks so much. It is super easy just to plug and play in an event like that, no matter how big or how small. So
hey, I just want to pop in real quick and just jump in real quick. We just put a poll up, and the poll was, what kind of events? And actually, we had golf tournament hybrid, or hybrid the future. And everybody, thank you so much for voting. But I just want to say, if there's something that you guys would like to hear from, somebody, we really try to make these where there's something that you can leave today and actually go put it into practice and do something. So if there's a topic anywhere around, the nonprofit space or something like that, please allow us to, feedback. If I didn't ask the right question, shoot it and say, this is the topic I'd like, put it in chat or something like that. And we'll work to get great experts like Amy who can bring some great content to you. So I just want to mention that. We do have a couple more questions.
We're getting a ton of feedback after every one of these webinars, actually. Just, direct emails. You can reach out to Amy at amyers@mdausa.org. You can reach out to Jason or myself, Jason at hjfundraising.com, Trevor at hjfundraising.com. We're going to share the slides, of course. We're going to share the recording of this webinar as well. We probably have a few more questions, certainly not dissuading you from answering those. But please give us feedback or any other questions that maybe we forgot, and apologies. But we do like to keep things moving and interactive and quick with these. So
we've got about 12 minutes left. We're going to pick the winner here in just a second. So please, if you've got a question with Amy, because we've got her here, so please, we want to wring everything out of what we possibly can. And so please do that. There was a question about, some of the trips and things, like somebody asked about the Kentucky Bourbon Tour. It is a fantastic trip. It does really well. And it's, the stuff that what we do at HGA is we really try to have things that you can make money with. A trip that's not going to cost you a lot. We have some higher end stuff as well. But the main thing is it's that stuff that everybody can bid on. And what you want to think about when you're picking your items as how many people, there may be only have 10 or 15, 20 people who can afford to pay $20,000 for some kind of a spectacular vacation. And that's great. But how many do you have that can spend $2,000 to $2,500? Like Amy talked about the all-inclusive, you just sell it, they sell a ton of them because people stop leveraging their giving budget and their vacation budget. And I want to touch on one more thing that I think is really important for all you guys when you start making your calls and you're getting on the phone and asking for those sponsorships. I just saw a study done, a statistic for the United States. Our giving for 2020 was up over 2%. Across, like in other, let's say Western nations, giving was down. But in the United States, it was up over 2%. People have money. Now obviously there's folks that are really struggling, but there's a lot of people that have made a lot of money in the stock market over the last 12 months, and they can give and they want to. So be encouraged that when you pick up that phone and make those asks, people want to engage. They want to help. They want to help your mission.
We have some questions about sponsors. Amy, are you seeing those questions in the chat function?
I am. So value, the question is, can I talk more about value added for a sponsor and what we can offer them? And I'm happy to send, so when Jason sends out the slides and stuff after this, I'm happy to send a sample sponsorship packages that we use. Really for a virtual event, the benefits look very similar and the value for a company. It's a lot of the same thing. It's logo during the virtual event. Be creative. Something that we found that sponsors love is their logo on the event website, where people are going to go and register. people love their logo on, you should be sending out a pre-event newsletter that has like a little bit of a section featuring what's going to be great about your event. Well, we have this all-inclusive Cabo trip that you can buy, and this is what the program looks like, and put sponsor logos on there. They find a lot of value in that. Mm-hmm. Thank you letters, after your event, your thank you letter that should go out to people that spent money, that's something to offer up. Your logo on every thank you letter that goes out. So it's really the value for, in my opinion, the value for a company is actually greater because of the capabilities of broadcasting this to the entire country. If you're putting it on a YouTube channel, the other value is it's recorded. Most of us, I don't think, record our in-person events, but now you have this recording that you can go back to the sponsor and show them. And I always encourage you, after any event, in person, virtual, golf, gala, whatever it is, to send your sponsors a return on investment, an impact report. You should be able to put together an impact report for your company and how their gift or their donation, played into the company. And so those impact reports are huge.
Super smart. I think that's super smart.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to jump on this next question real quick. And it has to do, because this is something we talked about previously about having the raffle. Would you mind just giving like a 2-minute answer to that, how you guys have worked on that? And we're not here to give legal advice on raffles, because they're saying, certain states have strict rules, but would you talk about what like you said with the Hershey bars and the things like that, where you guys have made it, given the person something of value?
Sure. Yeah. So raffle laws are very different. And yes, we're not here to give any kind of advice other than you need to check into your state's raffle laws before you do a raffle, because you can get in trouble and you can get a very big fine if you do not adhere to the raffle laws. But typically for a raffle in some of the stricter states, it's not considered a raffle if you give the person an item of value. And value is a very loose term. What's valuable to me may be very, less valuable to somebody else. But for example, he mentioned the candy bars. For the golden ticket, instead of it being a raffle where they're taking a chance at winning the vacation, we actually would order Hershey bars wrapped in gold foil. And we called it, the golden ticket or the golden whatever it was. And they were numbered. And so you actually were buying the Hershey bar for $100, and you just happen to have the opportunity to win a vacation. Another one that we've done is, there's places that you can buy jewelry, fairly like cosmetic jewelry that has value, that's inexpensive, and you're buying a bracelet, but you could win a trip. Just be creative. The other thing is you can, in a lot of states, you can do a game of skill. It's a little bit harder virtually, but you could have, you have to answer a trivia question, and then you pay the $100 for your ticket, but it's a game of skill. So it gets you around. So you just have to really look. You have to be creative. And just, like I said, you don't want to risk it by any means, but it definitely, if you get something of value in there, they'll leave you alone.
And sorry to be a broken record on this as well, but another great opportunity when we're selling these tickets to have it underwritten by a sponsor as well. Anything that's wrapped around a ticket or wrapped around a Hershey bar can also have a sponsor's name on it as well. Absolutely. And they will underwrite. Yeah, they'll underwrite the cost of the reserve price of the golden ticket, for instance. Yep. We had a question about the golden ticket. We're seeing more success virtually with the sale of the golden ticket, entries, if you will, than even in person, as a matter of fact, just because the drive to get the tickets purchased on camera, on screen, if it's a virtual event, has been so lovely, and people are able to buy the tickets in advance of the event, sometimes a week, 2 weeks in advance of the live show. So we're seeing, we had a question about if it's working virtually. It's actually working better than it did in person. Yeah, quite frankly. Yeah. So Not pushing our agenda either. I wanted to get your thoughts real quick about incentivizing sponsors. We had a museum give every one of their sponsors a case of wine that we ship directly to the museum. Is that, I mean, that's not a bad idea as far as
it's not. And I see if we're actually doing this year, we're putting together for our, you know, some of our higher sponsors, you know, at the higher levels, where they get a gratuity box shipped to their house, or, you know, you can have, you know, there's companies that will ship, you know, charcuterie boards or whatever it may be. You know, you can also, you know, depending how you can do it logistically, give your higher sponsors the opportunity to put something in a little goodie bag that, you know, it has their logo, and then the goodie bag gets shipped to the guests. So, you know, and somebody just said a party box. Yeah, I mean, be creative. There's you know, there's a cool company. Well, there's several companies that do another neat idea. They do what they call a liquor lab. And so you can incorporate that into your event, where they will ship a liquor kit to your guests ahead of time, which you could actually sell them and make them pay for their own kit. And it comes literally with the alcohol, the mixer, all the little tools that you need. And then periodically, you know, like 3 times throughout the virtual event, this bartender will come on and quickly like teach you to make this drink. So there's ways to have these like party boxes, or, you know, whatever, and incorporate it and make it interactive and bring it into your virtual event.
That sounds awesome. That does sound like a party box. That sounds great. That sounds great. Well,
I've got one last little comment I want to make just for Anna, because she asked a question, said that, you know, last year they raised $85,000 with their Mission Drive raffle, and they're going to have a pre-recorded event. What I would say is, one of the things is reach out to people that gave to you last year and ask them to make a donation that you can take, not a match challenge. I want to be real specific. Say, you know, would you be willing to make that gift again, that we could turn around and take that and challenge other people to match it so we can exceed last year's goal. And, you know, that's a great way to re-engage folks that want to do something, because they want to see how their money can be used. And if you take that and, you know, maybe you go get $20, $30, $40, $50,000 donated, then you turn around and go and you can ask new donors who haven't engaged, say, look, we've got a $50,000 match, you know, so your dollar becomes $2, and you really use that to leverage that. So when you're making those asks, be willing to do that. Reach out to those people that have given in the past, made significant gifts, and ask them again for this year, because they're looking for ways to give and have an impact.
Absolutely.
Okay. Hey, we're right at 12:59. Gosh, thank you guys so much. We are going to send out, again, the recording. We'll send out the slides. We're going to put Amy's email so she can graciously be happy to answer any questions. And Trevor, drum roll, please.
And
who is our winner?
We have a winner of our Caribbean 6-night revenue enhancer, for instance, our great online item, Emily Deering Caruso, which we'll be following up with you today. Emily, thanks so much for joining. We'll be following up with that gift today. You can use it for whatever you like. And
fundraising for fundraisers.
Oh yes, of course. Pardon me. Anything that you like in this space that in the context of what we've discussed today. The feedback's been awesome. Amy, pure gold. We can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Everybody give her a big hand.
Thank you so very much. Thanks for everyone that attended. Jason, thank you as well. And then we'll be circling back. So let's keep the communication channels open. Please don't hesitate if you have any questions for us. And we'll look forward to seeing you all next Thursday, where we're going to talk about another revenue enhancer, for instance, and kind of do a deep dive on that. So stay tuned for the invite, and please share it with your friends and colleagues and family, and everyone be safe. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amy. Can't thank you enough.
Sure. Thank you.
All right.
Bye, guys.
All right. Have a great afternoon, everyone.